Mini Jake, the tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. JJ and I are back to talk about Invincible Season 3. So I believe we've talked about the first two seasons together on here, so it's going to be exciting to talk about this one and the first 3 episodes. So I believe now they're going to be releasing weekly, so there's no mid-season break. I think how we're going to do is we're going to cover the first 3 episodes now, and then I think we're going to wait till the end of the season to finish just because we have something else planned together in the meantime. But yeah, how do you feel in general about these first 3 episodes, JJ?
I feel like it's a pretty strong start to the season. It feels like the plot is developing a little slow. I mean, we're getting the plot line with Oliver that is developing at a pretty good pace, but like we just got the one end credits with Alan and Omni-Man,
right?
And like we got the one end credit with
Mark and Eve.
Not Mark and Eve. What's the interdimensional guy? His name? Angstrom Lean.
Yeah, where he's spying on them and Mark gets his camera, and yeah, because I was like, okay, that's definitely Angstrom, but
yeah, it just feels like a little bit of a slow development. But I mean, I don't mind it because the pacing, even with that, the pacing of all the other different plot lines they have going feels really good.
Yeah, I'm interested to talk about it here. So we're gonna hit like the big main points, stuff that we liked along the way. These first 3 episodes, like. The major point, as you just mentioned, JJ, the development of Oliver, I believe in timeline, in the show, I believe it's like a month after season 2 or something, a month or 2. So Oliver has grown at a rapid rate because his species grows much more rapidly, or the Thraxans grow much more rapidly. He's half Thraxan, half Viltrumite. And so he is now like 8 or 9 years old in the span of a couple months.
Yeah, that feels about right for his age.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit older than that. But I do you know from the comics how long he lives?
No, I have no idea because I haven't read the comics. But like, I think I've basically done like little research here and there. But no, I have no idea how long Thraxans live. Or at least half Thraxans, half Viltrumites, because how we were told in season 2 was that Thraxans die rather quickly.
In comics, spoiler, but according to Screen Rant, it says that Oliver's only a few years old when he's killed by Thrag. So I assume that to mean like actual years, not his equivalent age, however you would even calculate that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they could also change some things from the comics in the show, because I feel like they've changed a couple things here and there from what I've learned from the couple things I've seen. But I don't know, or they could just be completely accurate, because they've also been pretty accurate to the comics from what I've heard also. So
sure. I mean, if I know that this is a very different show from Walking Dead, but I mean, that was also Robert Kirkman.
Right.
So if that's anything to go by, that show went off the rails with some of the changes it made. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, so with Oliver, obviously now Debbie's taking care of him and basically doesn't want him to go off and use his powers that he now suddenly has, which he's younger than Mark was when Mark first got his powers in the first season. And Oliver's still trying to like go out and be a hero, and she wants him to just be a normal kid, which again, I can understand as from a parent's perspective that that would be what what a parent would want from their child.
I'm kind of surprised that they haven't explored the dynamic of Debbie adopting Nolan's son.
Yes.
Because in season 2, we got so much about her storyline and her emotional development after what happened with Omni-Man. And I would have liked more of that. And I do really like the subplot of her
Dating.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't remember her boyfriend's name, but Paul sounds right. Yeah. But I think it would have been really interesting to explore like if she had any sort of feelings about that, because that seems like it'd be a really hard burden.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, she's raising a son that I feel like his mindset, I mean he was literally a baby, but again, he was literally a baby like a month or two ago. So apparently
Yeah.
I feel like he's and clearly what we're gonna see by the end of the third episode is that he has Omni-Man's beliefs.
Yeah.
So,
It's a really interesting parallel. Like the way that the show is comparing Mark's development and Oliver's development.
yes.
And then how they are foils of one another in this episode. Really, I mean, we see Mark take on the role that Nolan had when Nolan was training Mark, and it's such a nice return to the beginning of the show, and I love seeing that growth from Mark. And then, I mean, Oliver killing the Mauler twins.
Yes.
I feel like that's meant to be a fake out. I looked it up. I can't really remember much from season 2 on the Mauler twins, but the internet says they have someone in Kuwait, I guess.
So I know because I forgot they even survived again at the end of season 2 because it's been a while, but I remember season 2 they had like the whole thing where they like the first episode where the whole blow up that caused Anstrom Levy to become Anstrom Levy with his like brain was like the Mauler twins then also exploded and then one of them survived like half burnt and then I guess I forgot that they cloned themselves again, and that's how they come in here. So maybe that's right that they have another one waiting. But yeah, I mean, it feels like the Muller twins just are constantly dying and coming back. So
Yeah, I could do with them being shelved for a while.
yeah, at this point, I think we've seen them die pretty brutally multiple times.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, if I could go off on a tangent, I do feel like they kind of reduced the stakes of the show this season, both with the Mahler twins, but more so with Duplicate. I know that we already knew that she hadn't died, but like her and Ray coming back, at the very least, it's removing the emotional impact of the deaths of characters from others. Like I know it's a comic book show, and in comic books nobody stays dead, but at the same time, I would really like for dead people to be dead. It really drives a story when you have those kind of stakes.
I agree. I thought it was one of the best parts of season 2 was the Lizard League coming in, and you think that like basically everybody ends up dying, including Rex. And like I was fine with Rex coming back. Like it's a little bit iffy to have him get shot in the head and still survive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm okay with Rex surviving because there was more to be done with his character. I feel like with Kate and Ray, they probably should both be dead. So
Or at the very least, like just let Immortal and Duplicate be off on their own. Don't bring them back. Have them be, for all intents and purposes, dead. And then maybe bring them back for like some sort of finale thing. But bringing them back now, it just felt kind of shoehorned in.
I agree. And also, I mean, It was so weird as well. There was the other part of the episode where like the Guardians of the Globe go to the fight, and at one point you have like an enemy that feels like it what was it Doc Seismic literally knocks out like the Immortal and stuff. Like I don't think like Doc Seismic should be taking care of the Immortal. Like
Right. And he not only the Immortal, but all of the heroes.
yeah.
And then Cecil brings in his army. It's like, okay, well, now everything's back to normal. It's
Right.
like these gigantic stakes are being built up. And then any sort of consequence is immediately removed. And as an audience member watching, it makes me not ever feel the danger that's happening in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so difficult. Such a difficult thing to crack in this show and do right or in any superhero property. So I don't know. Hopefully season three kind of makes stakes more permanent. But we'll have to see. Any thoughts, more thoughts about like Oliver and like his arc with Mark? I know like at the end when he kills the Mauler twins and this whole thing of like, Oliver is adopting more of Omni-Man's personality and viewpoints, and Mark, of course, is like the one Viltrumite who believes strongly against that. Um, and even though he obviously killed Angstrom Levy by accident, and he was forced to do that to save his family, but at the same time, the whole thing is that Mark did technically kill Angstrom Levy, although the reason he's alive, I think, is going to be to like absolve Mark of any of that by the end of the season.
I think we're getting set up for some really interesting interpersonal dynamics to play out, especially when Nolan comes back into the picture.
Yeah.
I anticipate there being a sort of falling out between Oliver and Mark and Debbie.
Yeah.
I imagine we'll get some sort of proper fight between Oliver and Mark. And I wonder if Nolan is going to come back and shift Oliver's ideology, because it's clear that Oliver looks up to him so much.
Right.
I would be interested to see how the public perceives Oliver as he becomes more active, especially like they were talking about with the symbol of Omni-Man. And I don't know if he'll change his name. I don't know if that even got through to him, because like a lot of what they're saying to him, it feels like he acknowledges it, but doesn't actually take it.
No. Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm definitely curious where they're gonna take him, and yeah, I can definitely see Omni-Man coming back and shifting Oliver's ideologies, as you said, especially because it seems like Omni-Man himself has had a shift in his ideology.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think of Mark's new suit?
I actually like the blue and black suit. I think it's really, really cool. I'm debating if I even like it better than the original suit. Like, I honestly think I do. I think it just looks really cool.
I didn't really care for the light yellow that he had before. I do like the blue and black shades. The only thing I don't like about the new suit is the black eyes. That just doesn't feel right. But I really like the coloration. It feels very Nightwing.
Yeah, yeah, that I can agree with that. The eyes, I guess it is weird because again, Invincible is supposed to be a good guy. I think I mean it's funny that like everybody even thinks he's a completely different hero because the new suit, it's Invincible. Um but like I don't know, like it is weird to have him have like yeah, black eye masks or goggles.
Yeah.
Because like people can definitely view that as like what the Viltrumites were actually meant to be here for. So, um, all right. And so then next plot point, let's talk about Adam Eve and Mark finally having the will they won't they finally fall in love officially. And by the end of the second episode, they're finally having like an official kiss and date on the bridge. I mean, I've always liked Eve and Mark better than Amber and Mark, but so it was nice for me to finally see them get together.
Yeah, I'm glad the will they won't they storyline is done. That's one of my least favorite storytelling devices in dramas. I just like for a minute, sure, but especially when it's drawn out over 2 whole seasons, it's just too much. I do think Adam, Eve, and Mark are a very good fit for one another. It felt pretty natural for them to fall into the relationship as quickly as they did after they professed feelings for each other. And I really appreciated the meetup that Eve had with Amber and the way that they were able to healthily explore those new relationship dynamics.
Agreed. Yeah, that was really interesting. I like as well that like Amber can be in here for some purpose to have that moment with Adam Eve, and even like she still cares about Mark to a degree because she's obviously asking Eve how Mark is doing and what's going on with that situation. So
Yeah.
I like that they didn't just throw her character completely away, and they can find some other purpose for her.
She certainly isn't someone I was expecting a cameo from.
Right. Yeah, I definitely thought she might have been gotten thrown away by the end of after the second season, but uh, very interesting to when they can keep these characters. Um,
That is something that this show does really well is even the minor characters, they're really good at bringing them back for brief appearances to keep them ingratiated in the world without having them overtake any of the more major plot points.
Agreed. Yeah, there. I'm trying to think of like some good examples. I mean, like Donald had his own subplot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Donald was thought to have blown up with the house in the first season, and obviously like the whole thing is like Cecil just keeps, making him again as because he's been like a robot. He's died so many times. And so I think even in season one he was technically a robot. It still wasn't like the real Donald. Like he's been a robot for a while.
And then I know we talked about this before we started the podcast tonight, but like a lot of Machine Head's villains, and I don't know his name, but the guy who took over for Machine Head too, I know that's like its own developing plot point.
Titan, voiced by Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, yeah, but like a lot of those villains, they'll just be like recurring characters that show up. Um, oh gosh, the electric dude who basically Electro in prison. I mean, we'd seen him before too.
Yeah, yeah, it was really interesting to see him and the ton box dude. That they have their own plot line, and you wanted to bring this up, JJ, with the music in the beginning of
Yeah, okay, so since that was right after the Guardians of the Globe like had their falling out, I thought that would have been a wonderful opportunity for those two villains to then join the like have a change of heart and join the Guardians of the Globe. I mean, Donald had just had this, not Donald, sorry, Cecil had just had this speech about how heroes lose their sense of purpose, or villains like will change sides too. It was like, what a great way to illustrate that point if suddenly this is where we're pulling from.
Yeah.
But it was just what a great cold open. It's just a wonderful mini story to tell, and with no words. Very, very good cinematography, not cinematography, but just storytelling.
Yeah, it was so cool, yeah, to see like exactly what's happening. You don't need to say words to
Mhm.
express the story that is being told with these two characters, and it's kind of like it's a little bit sad. Like they really try to turn over a new leaf, and things don't work, so they have to resort back to crime, and
Yeah.
so. Um, so we have that going on, and of course, like I feel like the major plot line and probably the most interesting plot line is that I feel like they kind of built up in the first two seasons, like piece by piece, and we finally gotten to the point now where Cecil and Mark go against each other, different ideologies that are going to clash. And you could kind of see both viewpoints a little bit. Like you understand why Cecil is so apprehensive, but you also understand what Mark's thinking because Cecil literally hired two criminals to work for him. Especially Sinclair, who literally was taking students and people and literally like dismembering them and making them like androids or cyborgs.
Maybe it's because we as the audience had already been shown that Sinclair was working for Cecil.
Right.
But even from Mark and Debbie's perspective, I can't see how this would be surprising behavior. I'm not saying that Mark should have condoned it, because from his character's perspective, this isn't something that he would be supportive of. But it does feel like he flew off the handle in just a crazy way.
Yeah.
This to me doesn't feel like the hill for Mark to have died on in such a blow up kind of way. I do want them to have these opposing ideologies. I think it's good for Mark to go off on his own, especially while he's doing or helping raise Oliver and juggling these other aspects of his life. But I mean, this completely tracks for Cecil.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's so interesting. We also got to see Cecil's backstory as well, which I was like, I expected like sort of like the secret agent thing, but I didn't expect the part where he's like goes in to find like the radioactive material, and then that's how like to explain his like scarring on his face is that it literally just like destroyed his entire body, and that's like the only skin tissue he actually has left. Like I did not expect that. So
yeah, it was a nice backstory for Cecil, and I liked Donald being part of that too.
Yeah,
establishing some of the history of the GDA.
Yeah, that it was really cool. And then like we see that Cecil even had, you know, the same ideology as Mark at one point where he said to the former director, he's like, we don't work with criminals, so he shoots the two like criminals that attacked him and then also got brought back from the radiation poisoning. So yeah, I thought that that was really, really interesting to see the same ideologies that then I feel like there's going to be more backstory with Cecil that's going to show how that shifted. Yeah, I mean, obviously we can put the pieces together that it shifted because he's now been a director of the GDA for a long time. So of course he's going to think differently now.
I do think it was like once Mark had this extreme reaction, and then he and Cecil started fighting. Like the reveal that Cecil had for lack of a better term, implant in his head. Yeah. That felt like really good accelerant to then just be like, okay, Mark is completely against Cecil at this point. Right. And I can't imagine being in a position where you are running the Global Defense Agency in a world that just has this many heroes. But like after Nolan, I can't really blame Cecil for doing something like that. He has contingencies for his contingencies. This man has backups for everything, and it feels like he needs it. I mean, what can they do against someone like Mark if he decided he wanted to go rogue and be evil?
Right. They can't really do much. I mean, they were lucky in the first season that Omni-Man had this like sudden change of heart at the end because of the relationship he'd had with Mark that convinced him to fly off and not destroy Mark and the entire Earth. So
yeah, because he easily could have done that. I mean, we saw him on that the not the Thraxan, but those like they were kind of Martian-like, but in the first season, that group that was coming through the portals, I mean, we saw Nolan just absolutely destroy that planet. Yes. If he wanted to, he could just obliterate the Earth. Right. Nobody could stop him.
Yeah. And like they're lucky. The only thing that he did was what killed. He unfortunately killed a lot of people, but like they're lucky that's the only thing he did. So.
Yep.
Anything else you want to discuss from these first 3 episodes?
Not really. They've set up a lot of points to be explored in the next several.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have any predictions for the rest of the season?
I mean, I kind of gave the prediction already about Nolan shifting Oliver's perspective. Beyond that, I don't know that there's a lot that I can predict. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the Angstrom Levy.
Right.
It seems reasonable to think that he would have a shift. I'll bet he's probably important in some way in the fight against the Viltrumites. I don't know what this subplot with the crime in New York is. I don't know where that's going and if that's going to be important in the larger scale. So a lot of loose threads right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get wrapped up. I mean, Invincible's been really good about like wrapping up plot threads, and I have full faith in that. So I'm excited for the rest of the season. I still enjoy it. I still enjoyed season 2. I think season 1 is still my favorite. I just think that season, like the plot was the most interesting with Omni-Man, and like the build up to that finale was incredible. Made that finale so much better.
Yeah, season 2 was a little dry compared to season 1. But season 3 feels like it's going to build up to a pretty spectacular finale.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, so basically what's going to happen in the middle, we are going to talk about Invincible season 3 by the end of the season again. But in the middle, we will be covering Daredevil. So in the build up to Daredevil Born Again, because that's also dropping in March. So we're going to have two things going on at that point. But yeah, I'm excited to cover Daredevil with you. So
yeah, me too. It's good to be back, and especially for something like Daredevil, because longtime viewers probably know that's one of my favorite Marvel shows.
yeah, you've talked about this since the beginning of Tribe of Nerds as well. Like Daredevil is one of your favorite Marvel projects, and yeah, I'm excited. I've seen season 1. I am rewatching season 1, so we will cover season 1 first, and then we'll kind of break it up into season chunks. So it'll be season 1 podcast, season 2 The Defenders, and season 3. And then if we decide to also watch Punisher as well, we might also do that. So we'll kind of play it by ear and kind of figure it out. And then if we run into Daredevil Born Again a little later for like that coverage, then we'll figure it out. But just for everybody listening to know what's going on.
Somehow I don't think we'll spin off into things like Iron Fist.
No, I've heard not so great things about Iron Fist, and I don't think I want to watch. So, but yeah, no, I'm excited to have you back, JJ, and Will hopefully join us for some stuff as well in the future. So we'll figure it out, and we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.